Hello friends, welcome to the Metamorphs once again. Metamorphs is a non-political, non-religious, non-profit voluntary initiative by a set of people who are wanting to give it back to the society and give it back to the nation and see the nation turn into a happy, vibrant and inclusive nation. Happy morning to all of you all. Today is also an important day because it is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's birth anniversary also. It's being celebrated across the nation as Parakram Divas. I extend a very hearty and proud greetings to each one of you on Parakram Divas. Space, ladies and gentlemen. Space race has begun. We contribute a lot to this space. India as a nation is right up in the forefront of the space world. Unfortunately, we contribute a very small percentage of the global space economy. The reforms by the vision of Pradhan Mantri, Honorable Prime Minister of the country, have been planned. Actually, the Prime Minister had an interaction with the space industry bigwigs sometime in December 2020, and we embarked on unleashing a series of reforms. The reforms which took the benefits of space technology to every household in the country. The aim of these reforms was to ensure that a common man, a common Indian, gets the space benefits of the space technology at his doorstep. They become more accessible, more available, and more affordable. And also at the same time, this made sure that there is ease of business. There is ease of participation by the private people. We can make use of the transformative potential of this space technology. So that ultimate aim is to make Bharat absolutely Atmanirbhar in the space arena. These reforms include establishment of an independent agency in space which will act as a monitoring and a regulatory agency. These reforms were aimed at policy formulation, policy advocacy, space policy, and also segment-oriented, segment-centered policy. And it also finally triggered industry-led agency, which came into being on 11th October 2021 last year. That was Indian Space Agency. We have a wonderful panel of experts today talking to us as we go along about these reforms. They will give their own experiences. They are one of the very best in their respective fields. First, we have Lieutenant General Anil Bhatt. General Bhatt has had an outstanding military career. He's been a great military commander who has done every possible thing that an infantry officer can do, both in India and abroad. He has commanded his troops with Elon in active insurgency and active combat areas, which includes the command of the critical Srinath-based 15 Corps at a very, very important time in the history. Eventually, he retired as one of the principal staff officers from the Army headquarters. And quite rightly, he has been handpicked to be the first Director General of Indian Space Association by the Government of India. Welcome, General Bhatt. Welcome to Metamorphs.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you and talk to you.
Now, next we have Dr. B.R. Guruprasad. If I have to talk about Dr. B.R. Guruprasad, it'll take me one full hour to tell you what he has been all about. All that I want to tell you about him is that he is an outstanding, brilliant scholar, a great professor, and an outstanding scientist who has served the great ISRO for 37 glorious years. He has also served the Japanese, the German, and the NASA, the Japanese, German space agencies, and the NASA. He has authored more than 12 books. He has published 500 articles. He has presented them on various national and international fora. Anything said for him is less. Welcome, Dr. B.R. Guruprasad. Welcome to Metamorphs on this live streaming program on space.
Thank you.
Then we have Dr. Parameshwaran Sreekumar. I hope I've got your name right, sir.
Do.
Dr. Sreekumar is an astrophysicist by training. He's currently Satish Dhawan Professor with the ISRO. He has done his master's, I think, from IIT Mumbai. Then he did his PhD from New Hampshire in USA. And he has served in NASA for 10 years before he came back to give his expertise to our great nation in 1999 when he joined NASA, the ISRO. He's been an outstanding scientist, and he has had a distinguished career in the field of space technology. A last word, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Dr. Sreekumar, to our program. And now we have someone very, very important and very interesting personality, Srinath. Srinath is a street trader turned into aerophysicist. A man with a vision, a man who looks into the future through space technology, a man who will run for his money to Elon Musk, if I may say so. He runs Agnikul. I wish some of you can go and see what Agnikul is all about and what Agnibans he is trying to send into the space. Welcome, Srinath, to this wonderful elite panel. Thank you. I will turn to General Bhatt. General Bhatt, the reason why this ISPA was created, as I said earlier, a dialogue with the industry bigwigs, a historical landmark decision to open out a sector which has been a virtual monopoly, not virtual, actual monopoly, zealously monopolized by the government. And they've done wonderfully well also, I say so. So this landmark historical decision of 11th October 2021 to create ISPA has come about. You are the Director General with the ISPA. Would you like to tell our viewers something about the aims, objectives, and how this ISPA is going to be working, operating in times to come?
Sure, General Mathur. I would start with a little background. Why was this historical decision taken by the government? And in that, we should put the world space domain in perspective. Space, as you know, has been the domain of governments all over the world. And in fact, it was part of the race during Cold War between USA and USSR. However, by 1970, in USA, the open sky policy started taking private industry, but in communication. This carried on till 2000, and it is in 2000 when private players in USA were, the whole space domain was opened, and then it created innovators, people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Virgin Galactic. Now they have brought in disruptive technology into this space domain. They have made launching of a satellite much cheaper. Seeing these initiatives going on in the world, one, and secondly, in India, the government realized that though the space economy is about $371 billion, we just have 2% of it. There was a need to now relieve ISRO, which has led our space journey fantastically for the last 50 to 60 years, for them to focus on R&D, focus on higher exploratory science, the missions to the moon and others, and strategic domain. While the lower end of it and other thing to be given to private industry, also the government thought this was an opportunity for us to have the next revolution after IT and pharma for providing opportunities in India. Now, with that as the background, ISPA was created primarily with the aim that we work with all our stakeholders to create an enabling environment for strengthening the private industry in the Indian space sector. And our aim is to propel India to the global forefront of the space economy. And of course, we echo the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. We aim to be a united voice of the space industry. We aim to increase corporate footprint in space, facilitate regulations, innovations, and economic growth, and create synergy between the private and public sector. Our scope of activities is from satellite communication to the defense and strategic domain, all what I have flashed in front of you.
Yeah, great.
And our focus areas from manufacturing to services, primary being policy advocacy, international cooperation, and synergy within space, ISRO, and NSIL. And of course, we also want to interact with the defense and security domain. To put our whole aim and vision in perspective, I would just play this slide from our inauguration by the Honorable Prime Minister.
भारत ने एक अभूतपूर्व सिद्धि हासिल की है। भारत ने आज अपना नाम अंतरिक्ष महाशक्ति स्पेस पावर के रूप में दर्ज करा दिया है।
Thank you,
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल अनिल, जनरल अनिल, बहुत बढ़िया आपने हमें समझाया कि ISPA के उद्देश्य क्या हैं और आगे हम इसको किस प्रकार से ले जा रहे हैं। और मैं माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की वो बात दोबारा कहना चाहता हूं कि भारत ने विश्व के मानचित्र पर अपना नाम एक स्पेस पावर के रूप में दर्ज करा दिया है। एंड देयर शुड बी नो स्पेस बिटवीन अ कॉमन मैन एंड द स्पेस इंडस्ट्री। जो कॉमन मैन का मुद्दा है, उस मुद्दे पे मैंने पहले भी कहा था, वो मुद्दा ये प्रधानमंत्री के जो विजन है उसमें साफ नजर आ रहा है। ISPA अपना काम करेंगे, इन स्पेस वाले अपना काम कर रहे हैं, पॉलिसी काम हो रहा है, लेकिन हमको ये नहीं भूलना चाहिए कि ISRO ने पिछले 75 वर्षों में भारतवर्ष को कहां से कहां पहुंचा दिया। हम मंगल, चंद्रमा और स्पेस के हर जगह पर वी आर देयर। सो there can be no one better than Dr. Guruprasad to take us through the journey of ISRO, the journey of achievements of ISRO. May I request Dr. Guruprasad sir to kindly tell my audience the extraordinary achievements and the audacious journey on which the ISRO has embarked. It has moved from a launch of 30 to 70 tons, kilogram worth of small satellites, to a 4,000 kilogram worth of payload establishment in the outer space. An outstanding achievement. May we have you telling us about the achievements of ISRO.
Certainly, sir. Good morning to all of you. And as Anuj sir put it, the thing is, the journey of the Indian space program has indeed been audacious, indeed, no doubt about it. And let me say, India's trust with space is, and its achievements in that domain, not only achievements, its significant achievements in this domain are a romantic story indeed. But it was not a path, or it was not a bed of roses. There were inevitable setbacks. But one thing, let me tell you, when the Indian space program was conceived by Sarabhai, he, as well as his colleagues, thought about one thing. They were very clear. The first thing was the unbridled belief in space technology as a catalyst for India's rapid and overall development by Sarabhai. He had unbridled belief. Second thing is, all these people believed in one thing. Space is not for the faint-hearted. You should not be deterred by failures, in fact. And failures should never be seen. It applies to the present generation also. Failure should never be seen as setbacks. Failure should always be seen as something which provides insights into the workings of a very complex system like a satellite or a rocket. With this dictum, with these beliefs, ISRO progressed and it has done wonders. Let me very, very quickly go through that through a series of slides. And I'm sharing this. And look at that. This is Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the father or architect of Indian space program. When the space program was conceived, he was very clear. Many people thought India could not India could not build a bullock cart, rockets and space program for India. So at that time, he answered very clearly. There are some who question the relevance of space activities in a developing nation. To us, there is no ambiguity of purpose. We do not have the fantasy of competing with advanced countries in the exploration of the moon, the planets, or the manned space flight. But we are convinced that if we are to play a meaningful role nationally and in the Committee of Nations, we should be second to none in the application of advanced technologies to the real problems of man and society. That is what he told. What prophetic words. ISRO has followed those prophetic words and triumphed. Let me tell you. See, when we say India has achieved a lot, India has made significant achievements in the domain of space. Space is a very vast thing. Space technology, let us say, or space in general. It's a vast domain. So there are many subdomains. For example, we have the domain of launch vehicles, that is satellite launching rockets. Then we have the domain of satellites. Then we have the domain of ground systems. Then we have the domain of applications, which is very important. India's is one of the most applications-oriented space program in the world. And finally, there is space science, in fact, the urge of humans to explore space. So let us say, when we see how things started at Tumbai near Tiruvananthapuram in the early 60s, look at this. This is the way one of the parts of a sounding rocket, okay? A small research rocket. This is the way they were being carried, okay, in those days. And many of my the beginners, engineers at the time, they actually started preparing the propellants of rockets with pestle and mortar, laboratory stirrers, that kind of things they used. We can't even believe. Okay, look at that. Passion was the one which united all of them. They knew very well they were indulging in something which was good for the country. It merged seamlessly with the country's objective. Look at these two people. This is one, Mr. Aravamudan, who passed away very recently. In the sweltering heat, these two people are working. And ladies and gentlemen, this is none other than Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Okay, you can see him, in fact, working in the sweltering heat of Trivandrum in those days. So they all started like this, but there were difficulties, lot of difficulties, but they had passion. Okay, that is the thing. And what is the result, end result of that? We are all reaping those benefits. Today, we have a launch vehicle, world-class launch vehicle, which weighs 640 tons, that is 640,000 kilograms. You know, the thing is, these two rockets which are firing and which lift off, which make the lift off of this vehicle possible, each of them has 207,000 kilograms of propellant through 207 tons. So 414 tons of propellant are washed out in 2 minutes 20 seconds. What is the prodigal rate at which the propellant is consumed? That reminds me of prodigal Bakasur. Okay, so the thing is, I always named this as Bakasur, really. And what I want to say is, India has today built 5 generations of launch vehicles. This is the 5th generation launch vehicle, GSLV Mark III, and our PSLV has become the pride of India. 104 satellites it has launched. And what else it has? It has done many other things. Anyway, there is no time for that. Now let us come to the domain of satellites. You know, satellites are the ones. Launch vehicle will do its work in about 20 minutes, and that's all. Its work is over. Satellites have to work for a decade or more even. So India started its satellite program with the launch with the building of Aryabhatta in the industrial sheds of Punya in 1975. Okay, so today we have a satellite in geostationary orbit, 36,000 kilometers high, 1/10 of the way to moon. What is the weight of this? Aryabhatta weight was 358. This GSAT 11 satellite has a weight, at the time of its liftoff, it had a weight of 6,000 kilograms almost. Aryabhatta generated 47 watts of power. This generates 13 kilowatts of power. Look at that, how far we are. We have built more than 100 satellites. We means India. I'm speaking about India. I'm not speaking about ISRO. I'm speaking about India. Okay, India has built more than 100 satellites on its own. Then, in the domain of space, it is as essential to have a well defined and well constructed infrastructure for tracking satellites and launch vehicles as it is to build rockets and satellites themselves. You go near, you come to Bangalore, and near Bangalore, there is a place called Byalalu. Okay, the thing is very near to the place where the film Sholay was made. Okay, so the thing is, this antenna is having a diameter of 105 feet. Weight of this antenna, you want to know, 350 tons. So this is a marvel of Indian engineering. And this is the one which is communicating with our Mangalyaan spacecraft. And when it comes to applications, All I want to say at this stage is satellites have become an integral part of our economic infrastructure, whether it is TV, telephony, or high-speed internet, survey and management of natural resources, navigation, for everything they are contributing. I'll talk about it separately. And when it comes to space science, which is the fifth facet of the space domain, Dr. Sreekumar is going to talk about these things. But anyway, 2 slides I will show. One thing is, when India tried to send, India planned to send its spacecraft to moon, the first spacecraft to moon, Chandrayaan-1, many people thought, what? Dozens of spacecraft have already gone to the moon. 12 people have walked on the moon. What India can do? But please see, it is what your country's spacecraft did. This is Manchester Guardian, which has put a report. India's first lunar mission finds water on the moon. We are not trumpeting anything. It is your country's spacecraft which has conclusively found water on the moon. It was the first spacecraft. What else you need? Okay, to be inspired. So this is the thing. And another thing is, kindly bear with me. Now, having tasted success in the case of the moon, India went to Mars. Okay, and look at that. I would like to say, this is the 2016 November issue of National Geographic. You go and see. Look at that. Look at the picture of Mars globe, and which spacecraft has taken this picture of Mars? This is your spacecraft, Mangalyaan, Mars orbiter mission. When I was in public relations, I still remember to have seen a request to our director at that time from the National Geographic telling, please give us a picture of Mars taken by your spacecraft. We are going to acknowledge it. Today, you take this issue of the magazine and look at the inside pages. They have given picture courtesy Indian Space Research Organization. What else you need? If our capability was not like this, would National Geographic would it have asked like this? This is another example. And finally, today a lot of people are talking about James Webb Space Telescope. It is a time machine and a window to the past and all those things. I have great respect for that, no doubt about one of the wonderful things technology has done. But please don't forget, your own country's multi-wavelength observatory called AstroSat is functioning even after nearly 6.5 years after its launch. It has got not one eye, it has got 4 eyes: visible eye, ultraviolet eye, X-ray eye, and even to a certain extent gamma rays eye. So let me say, India has achieved quite significant things in the domain of space. And if past is an indication for the future, whatever Prime Minister aspires and well planned and started a new revolution, initiated a new revolution, I don't have any doubts about its good progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Guruprasad. Thank you for having taken our viewers through, as you said it, refreshingly audacious journey of great ISRO. I will now turn to Dr. Sreekumar. Space research activities, hitherto have been focused on developing space assets that provide direct developmental benefits, like telecommunication sector or remote sensing and the things like that. But over a period of time, in the last year, we have seen there is an increase in exploratory activity by the India's space agencies and India's space programs. What can you tell us about the space explorations, and what lies in future as far as the space explorations are concerned for our great country, Bharat?
Thank you, General Mathur. Nearly 70 years ago, when the space exploration began, Van Allen, a very famous American scientist and team, had actually set up a little experiment to see how space is. And they measured a lot of charged particles in space. And there was this big concern at that stage: was space radioactive? And is it a place where humans can actually go? Now, a lot has happened since then. And the idea of actually exploring space to understand the environment has been a continuing process, and ISRO also had a role to play in these aspects. As Dr. Guruprasad mentioned, in balancing the resource and communication requirements of the country, there was also a parallel program that looked at space sciences right from the first satellite Aryabhatta onwards. And today this legacy continues with these new space science missions, as General Mathur just now suggested. And it has three basic areas we look into. We look at Earth from a space platform, both to look at resources as well as study Earth as a system. So in this particular area, we have a very exciting mission coming up called NISAR. It's a joint mission with NASA. Together, along with NASA, ISRO is building a synthetic aperture radar. It's a radar that can actually sort of artificially create an antenna dimensions larger because of it being on a moving platform. And using the two synthetic aperture radar, you can actually map and monitor changes in the vegetation and wetlands, ice, glaciers, an absolutely important issue that will look at land surface deformation, look at earthquakes, volcanic activity. It's a very, very important mission that is expected to be launched very, very soon. And this is together with NASA, and NASA today sees this as a very, very important mission. And that speaks volumes about the kind of leverage that we currently have globally. We're also looking at a possibility of a twin satellite that studies the upper atmosphere of Earth. And this is right now, as part of every activity, we build study reports and then present requests to the government for formal approval. Going beyond Earth, if you look at the planetary exploration, Dr. Guruprasad already mentioned the challenges and the exciting results from Chandrayaan-1. Chandrayaan-2 is a much more global, ambitious program. And today we have in orbit an orbiter that is world-class. It's got 8 experiments that are really pushing the observation capabilities of studying the moon. And today, you know, moon is not something that is just for the scientists. Moon is for everybody. People are planning to go there. It's a place that we think of as resources. And so Chandrayaan-2, with its unique capability, is expected to address many, many elements of this, including the presence of water at poles. And there's a future mission that we believe with the Chandrayaan-3 and the future mission, we'll actually be able to contribute significantly in this process. The mission beyond Chandrayaan-3 is something that we're trying to do jointly with our Japanese exploration team, space agency, JAXA, which is a mission to land on the southern pole of the moon with a rover to really look for those pristine water that came potentially from the very early days of the solar system. And water, as you all know, is something that is essential for survival, essential for resources, for maybe rocket fuel, hydrogen, various other issues. We're also looking at the possibility of a mission, an orbital mission to another planet of the solar system, Venus. And that is also at a very mature level with regard to study report and readiness towards a possible future mission. Going beyond our solar system, if you look at astronomy, as Dr. Guruprasad already mentioned, we've had a very successful mission, AstroSat, which is continuing to observe. It's an observatory that is not just used by colleagues in India and scientists in India, but globally. We do open up observation capability to our global scientists, and about 50% of proposals we get from our global partners. And so it is seen as a very important mission that actually looks at space, looks at black holes, neutron stars in our galaxy, in galaxies beyond our own Milky Way, and in different parts of the world, of the universe. Later this year, we hope to launch a mission, which is all being readied now, to study the sun. It's called Aditya L1. It goes to a unique position between sun and earth called the Lagrange point 1, which is a perfect place to study the sun continuously. There's also an important place from where you'll actually get early warnings regarding how the sun may be behaving in a manner that would be of concern to us, what is often called as space weather. Are there disturbing influences coming from the sun in terms of particles, in terms of fields that could affect our communication, that could affect our satellites, could affect health of astronauts, that could affect satellite systems in terms of disturbances, etc. So it's a very important mission. It is also trying to do fundamental science of trying to ask what heats the sun, what heats the corona of the sun, which is extremely hot. So it's seen as a very major science solar physics mission. And we also have smaller missions like a mission called ExpoSat. It looks at the unique behavior of polarization from X-ray emitting objects. It's pushing a new frontier of scientific research. Now, we've also embarked on a program to send Indians into space called Gaganyaan program. which is a very important program. It actually challenges us to really push our technology to a completely new frontier, reliability of many orders of magnitude better. And it also offers a great window to do microgravity experiments where the gravity that we experience on Earth can actually be removed, and you can study fundamental sciences that says, how does, say, two fluids that don't mix, how do they flow in a tube? How does fire behave in a zero gravity environment? It is also very important to really understand elements of this as we look at our own colleagues, Indian citizens being in space, how to ensure we actually do all the necessary R&D towards that. It also initiates a program in astrobiology, biology of how systems may evolve in space. Where did life come from? From Earth, or did it come from outside? There are many elements of it that are upcoming, which I think is only a sampling of the many missions that we are planning. As you can see, these are exciting, challenging programs, and they should motivate youngsters in the country to get involved and hopefully contribute to future programs of ISRO. Thank you, General Mathur.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sreekumar. You just made a mention of students and the younger generation to get involved. The journey from Chandrayaan to Mangalyaan to Gaganyaan and many other yans goes on. We have an extraordinary institute by the name of IIST, which is engaged in research, world-class, top-end research in the space technology, is one of the very best in the whole world. What is the ISRO's association with IIST? Mind you, IIST is such a great establishment that the first chancellor of IIST was none other than the great Bharat Ratna, the former president of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So that sums up the thing. So what is the relationship, the association of ISRO with IIST? And our youngsters who are watching this program, how can they benefit from those who are looking for a career, who want to be Dinesh Sharma, the Sharmas, the Sunita Williams or something, whatever. So how can they get into this great institution?
Thank you, John Mathur. Clearly, we do need our youngsters to get into this manner where their foundation in mathematics, in fundamental sciences, and engineering elements are all solidly put together. So with that vision in mind, ISRO initiated this building up this center called the Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology. It was established in 2007. It's a deemed to be university, offers degrees in undergraduate, in master's, as well as in PhD programs. Is BTech programs primarily in aerospace, avionics, engineering, physics. Takes roughly about 150 students a year. And admissions, of course, varied, but right now it's based on a joint entrance exam, which many of our young students have been taking within the country. It's a small institution by many standards. It's only about 100 faculties, in about 800 to 1,000 students, and it's a full residential campus in Valiyamala near Thiruvananthapuram. So it's not very far from the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, from the Liquid Propulsion Space Center of ISRO. So what is unique about IIST? I mean, it's a program that offers very special emphasis on space studies and space technology. Foundations of how to really get into some of these. What is a style of process that we go about doing designs, thinking, testing systems, what kind of measurements we make, etc. Students have access to very special labs and facilities that may not be found in many other places. And its proximity and association with ISRO centers, which often have very, very unique facilities, is a very special advantage to students who actually participate. These special opportunities for internships at ISRO centers, which is very, very good. A few months they spend at some of these ISRO centers, other research centers in India, depending on their interest, and even abroad. They have specialized agreements with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the place in the US, which actually does most of the design and development of planetary programs, the University of California, the University of Colorado in Boulder, Australian National University, the National Technology University in, NTU Singapore, etc. So these are very unique opportunities for students who participate in this. And after completion of their 4-year degree program, a limited number of them opportunities to enter and be directly absorbed into ISRO based on this overall CGPA performance There's an interview performance that is there, etc. So this is a very unique program. I would encourage all listeners and colleagues who are maybe interested in this to really actually look at their program online and look for opportunities to be part of this issue. And certainly, we believe today it not only serve ISRO, but also serve the larger aerospace and the growing private space components. These are youngsters whom solid training in engineering, technology, and mathematics would go a long way to serve the national requirements. Thank you, Dr. Jalma.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sreekumar. It was a wonderful piece of information for the viewers and the people who are looking at a career and at a future in the field of space technology. I'll get back to Dr. Guruprasad, back to you, sir. One of the thrusts of the vision of Mannya Pradhan Mantri ji has been to get the benefits of space technology and space explorations and the things to a common man, make it more available, more accessible, and more affordable. What benefits of the space programs are there for a common man and of course for the nation? But we would like you to tell our viewers about the benefits of the space program. You're muted, sir. Guruprasad sir.
Yeah. I know. Okay. Now, let me come to the applications. General Mathur, you asked a very apt question. You know, Indian space program is highly application oriented. When people started asking question in the 60s, why India should have a space program? After all, space is a domain which is actually it is for the advanced countries. But Indian space program is there to solve down to earth problems. Okay, for societal applications and for down to earth solving down to earth problems only, this space program has focus. Now let us take the case of, as I told you earlier itself, satellites have become the backbone of our economy. They have become an integral part of our economic infrastructure. Today, there is almost no important aspect of space, important aspect of our life, which is not touched by space systems. Let us take the case of, let us say, an ATM. Many of us use ATMs, but you know, many of us might not have seen one thing. Each ATM will have a small antenna on top of that directly communicates through satellite with the bank. In fact, that is how banking transactions are going on, in fact. And imagine if satellites are not there today, what kind of chaos will be there, in fact. That is one thing. Second thing is, today about 900 TV channels are reaching India, in fact. Okay, they are permitted in India, depending on the type of this one liking people have. They have a lot of choices. And you see here, there is a small, I have shown only one company's thing, not necessarily this one, like this, about a foot in diameter. That kind of antenna is there, which directly communicates with directly receives signals from a satellite which is orbiting the Earth 36,000 kilometers high, geostationary orbit. You can see how people are enjoying TV. But let me tell you, India was a pioneering country, and that did the very first sociological experiment of technological as well as sociological experiment of transmitting TV programs from a geostationary satellites directly to villages. Many of our youngsters may not know at all. India was the pioneer in doing this experiment, but we didn't have a satellite at that time, thanks to our cooperation, thanks to the cooperation with the United States. United States provided one of its satellites called ATS-6 for about a year during 1975-76, and this program was very successfully implemented. And this was the forerunner of DTH technology today. India was the pioneer, thanks to United States, which contributed a satellite, but the software, the ground systems, everything was done in India. In fact, that was the starting point. So whether it is TV broadcasting, whether it is telecommunications. And another important thing is weather forecasting. There was a time, you remember, sir, once upon a time, when there used to be a cyclone, means when there was a cyclone, lots and lots of tens of thousands of people used to get killed because people were not knowing what kind of cyclone was there, how ferocious it was, what was its speed, what was its direction, what was its strength, and all those things. But today you can see the formation of a cyclone as it is being formed on over Bay of Bengal. So within 24 or 36 hours, actually, you can get a forewarning of that and prediction as to where it will have a landfall. So only thing is you have to take necessary and proper action. In fact, if you don't take action, please do not blame the satellites. Satellites are there to provide the information. Today, do you know, the thing is, many of our young friends may not be knowing. Every 15 minutes updation is there from we have two sophisticated weather satellites in geostationary orbit, INSAT 3D and INSAT 3DR. So every 15 minutes you will get weather updates. So that is the way it is. And you can think of the way our satellite, and both these satellites were built in India. One of them was launched from India itself. Now, telecommunications, television broadcasting, and weather forecasting. After that, what else are the applications? There are plenty, in fact. Survey and management of natural resources. Let us say survey and management of natural resources. In this regard, agriculture, for example. What is the acreage of a crop? What is the yield of a crop? Is there any disease which is afflicting the crop? Is its harvest is going to fail or something like that? Such things can be predicted well in advance. So if proper action is taken, the fluctuation in prices can be managed, can be by and large can be managed. So all the things is the satellites are there to provide information. We have one of the best remote sensing satellites. Once in 1990s, ours was the highest resolution remote sensing satellite in the 1990s. Even today, India is a world leader in the satellite-based remote sensing. Remote sensing means collecting information about an object or a phenomena without having any physical contact with it. Satellites will not have any physical contact with the Earth, but they look at the Earth through their eyes, special eyes. So agriculture is one thing. Second thing is groundwater estimation, groundwater prospecting. Satellites have helped even in this, but they are not going to say, satellites are not going to say, you dig here, I will get groundwater. No, it is not like that. It is for the scientists to study the rock structure shown by the satellites to analyze and predict. But the basic information is provided by satellites, our satellites. Then third thing is forestry. The forests, how important they are. Now at the global level, we have global warming is being discussed at the United Nations level. We know very well the importance of forests. Soil erosion, in fact, and soil classification. This is another thing. Fifth one, mineral prospecting. And sixth one, fisheries even. Look at that. There are plenty of applications, all of which have a bearing on our day-to-day life. And now we have NAVIC system. That is, NAVIC system is our own navigation satellite system. That is, many people say NAVIC is a GPS of India. No, NAVIC is a regional navigation satellite system consisting of 8 satellites are today in orbit. 20 they are in geosynchronous and geostationary orbit. They are providing information, position, navigation, and time. So you have satellites contributing to communications, weather forecasting, survey and management of resources, and navigation. These 4 are the very important areas of application. And I'm very proud to say that the satellites which are providing information on all these things, I mean services, valuable services to these sectors, they were designed, developed, built, tested, and many of them launched from India itself. And they are being very well managed using our own people and our own gadgets. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Guruprasad ji. And now I want to get back to Dr. Sreekumar, sir. Sir, we spoke about the India's aims and India's wish list of explorations into the space. while we may have our own wish list, where do we stand in terms of in the field of space explorations as compared to the other important countries in the world who are into this space exploration program?
Thank you, Dr. General Mathur. I'll briefly touch upon this. As you know, NASA has been leading the space exploration technology program globally. The Soviet Union that existed before and Russia today, the Soviet Union had a very extensive program with regard to exploration of certain planets like Venus and Mars. But that program has now scaled down and NASA leads this program. NASA today has a 2021 budget of about 24 billion US dollars. Now China, which is ramping up its program very rapidly, spends about half of that now. The European Space Agency, which has about 22 nations together running a space program, spends about half of China. Russia and Japan are at roughly the same level, and that's about half of what European Space Agency puts in. India is about half of Japan or Russia. So there's this factor of two, magic factor of two, that seems to be working very well. A number that says, we have about roughly 14 to 15,000 crores. And if you carefully look at it, our budget is less than 10% of the NASA budget. Clearly, all these global programs have elements of science, application, and exploration as part of it. They also have involvement of a human space program, a very expensive component of space exploration. Some are individual, like both NASA and Roscosmos, the Russians have that. Others are collectively as partners on the International Space Station. India is gearing up and will require increased funding to really to take this program all the way to its full glory. From the perspective of effective utilization of funds, India has done very well because of careful selection of near-term and long-term development activities. In particular, as Dr. Guruprasad has quite extensively discussed, national needs for resource mapping, communication, and other services. There's the most extensive remote sensing program we heard there a few minutes ago about that, of any nation. And this has been repeatedly and very specially appreciated by many nations. Those who come to visit us often speak about the incredible program that we have on remote sensing. Now, looking at the future, this will certainly involve more and more collaborative programs because these are going to be expensive, very large programs, and there's a desire to quickly get to this, and that will involve collaborative programs between many nations. And European Space Agency and NASA and Japan collaborate in many joint programs today. And ISRO's expanding collaboration programs also includes elements. If you recall, even our first lunar mission, Chandrayaan-1, involved collaboration, and we invited participation from other countries. We have joint programs with France and Megatropics. Today we are having an ISAR program with NASA. There is a future Japanese-Indian program called to go to the South Pole of the Moon, etc. We have yet to converge on the two parallel programs today that's addressing establishment of a permanent settlement on the moon. One is led by NASA called the Artemis program. And there's another one by the Russian and China combination called the International Lunar Research Station. And India is weighing these matters as we look forward to your participation in this. Space is an expanding frontier crossing national borders with new interfaces to national programs and commercial and societal programs. And this will demand establishment of new guidelines, policies, standards, and we are discussing that today, which is very wonderful. Clearly, the world sees India as a very reliable, dependable, and technically sound partner as a major player in the space arena. So it's rapidly evolving. I think we all need to be in sync, but the future is very exciting. Thank you, General Mathur.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sreekumar. Reliable, dependable, and an important player in the space technology arena. I think that sums up our status as far as the world space technology arena is concerned. We are getting a few questions, but I will handle those questions towards the end of the program. We've already got a couple of them, 3, 4, 5 of them of the questions. We will handle those questions towards the end. Now I want to get to Srinath. Srinath, the advent of space tourism occurred in 1990. And when the first space tourist, a paid person who went into the space, I think he was Dennis Tito, the space tourism has gained new, a sort of perspective, a new sort of prominence. You are involved. You are looking at that as a prospect. What do you have to say about space tourism, and where are we as far as the space tourism is concerned? You are muted. You please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this really awesome panel. Space tourism, I think, is one part of one variable of what space is just becoming today, right? What used to be the case is we had very specific applications for what space was being used for, right? And primarily it was for two things. One, people used to go there for imaging, taking pictures of Earth, or two, for bouncing off signals between different points on the planet, right? But today what we are seeing is, with the launch costs coming down, with technology in general, with costs coming down and people having more access, space is becoming a new platform by itself, right? Tourism is definitely one of the most exciting parts of it in some sense. I know there is a fair bit of debate on whether it is a rich person's game or is it only meant for the elite. But I really think it is going to become a little bit like how air travel has become today. At one point in time, air travel was meant to be only for a different class of society. But now we see that it is approachable to a lot more people. We are also seeing, and we've seen the advent of aircraft carriers, which are particularly focused on addressing all segments of the society, irrespective of wealth or irrespective of the strata or the background or anything, right? And I think a very similar situation is actually going to come for space as well. Very soon, I think space is going to become just another interesting platform from which we can again start dreaming for even further beyond, like say the deep space, for example, right? And I think that is what is actually becoming the new inspiration for a lot of youngsters today. I think as General Bhatt sir also mentioned, I think what India has accomplished today is amazing in terms of what we can tap into in the growing economy, right? So my personal story, I went for a master's degree in the US before I came back to India to start Agnikul, right? And when I was in this transition phase where I decided that I had to come back to India and come here and do things, build technology here. So, but I was doing a lot of networking, right? Reaching out to different people, because before this I was in the finance sector, so not really in the technology space directly. And I was always having this insecurity that the industry will always see me as an outsider, right? Because I'm from the finance area, at least at that time I was. So I did a lot of networking in the US, spoke to pretty much everyone I could meet in the industry. And one thing I realized is people just took me very seriously just because of the fact that I am from India. And that is what ISRO has already accomplished, right? There is a lot of respect and a lot of pride across the world for what India has already built. But in terms of how much we're able to tap into the economy that's growing, it is still a smaller percentage. And I think that's why the Prime Minister's vision, organizations like the Indian Space Association being formed, policies that are going to enable more private players to participate fully. I think all of these things are steps in the exactly the right direction to make not just space tourism, but space itself as a nice piece of economy that we can also tap into as a country. One of the things that made me feel, so I'd already made the decision that I was coming back to India. I'm talking about 2015 or so, before Agnikul, right? This was still when Agnikul was just an idea on a piece of paper. And everyone I spoke to there was just telling me the same thing. If you're going to be building a rocket, nothing like doing it from India. And that's because India is already considered among the best in the world as far as rocket technology is concerned, right? So this was one big sense of, because the usual mentality, at least in the time when I initially went to the US, and this was 2008 actually, the general notion was that good technology happens outside the country. If you really want to be designing new things, it is about going outside the country. But I think that is the last 5-6 years, with the advent of all of these startups, which the Prime Minister also mentioned in his startup day speech, right, is changing. We have seen so many unicorns. So not only on the software side are we seeing things grow, but generally beyond the make in India part, I think we are also getting into design in India. And I think that is going to be very important aspect for preserving who we are as a value addition to the entire world. So I think space tourism is great. It will definitely happen. I don't think there is any question about whether it will happen in India. Probably we are 5 years, 10 years down the line, we might have to do a couple of human crewed missions, and it will eventually happen, right? I don't see it as a extremely complex concept or something. Given what ISRO has accomplished, this is also very much within their within their tool set. However, I think the more important thing is the current excitement with more people staying back in the country, with more people coming back to the country to do work here. All of that is going to get accelerated at a rapid pace. And now we also have support for the private sector. So I think all of these things are just going to, basically what would have taken maybe 15 years is now going to happen in 7-8 years. I think we have half the time of getting there. That's my view on space tourism, or actually using space as a platform itself.
Thank you very much, Srinath. It was very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Taken seriously because I am from India. I think that should fill each one of us with immense pride. That is and that sums up. I would continue to ask. I'll ask you one more question. A little bit you have touched upon. What is the roadmap for the space industry? Now, having seen the kind of unleashing of the reforms that have taken place in the recent past by the government of India, and the kind of vision that Honorable Prime Minister has shown as far as the space industry is concerned, space technology is concerned, he wants to amalgamate it into your economist yourself, into the overall development of your economy. What do you think can be or is the roadmap for the space industry in this great country?
Sure. I think the roadmap is already starting to get laid in terms of 3 major pillars here, right? One thing is the kind of stuff that ISRO is actually is accomplishing and is planning to accomplish. Space station, the Gaganyaan mission. I actually wanted to quickly share a photo that inspired me a lot very recently. So I was just looking at this image here. 1 second, I think. Yeah, just looking at this image. I don't know how many of you have seen this, right? The humanoid robot that's going to probably be a part of one of the first few Gaganyaan missions, right? I think this is extremely fascinating stuff. The roadmap, when you generally talk about a roadmap and a plan and all that, it's always great because you're talking about the future, you're talking about accomplishments, but sometimes you need to get excited, right? The emotional connect has to be there. And you're suddenly talking about a humanoid going to space made in India. I think that is going to be fascinating for a lot of people. A lot of people are going to actually start dreaming about being a part of that mission. So even before the roadmap, even before what exactly has to be accomplished, we need to get the country excited about accomplishing something in space. Only then will there be enough momentum to keep pushing on the roadmap, whatever is getting built. And I think ISRO is already starting to take the right steps in that direction. These might be usually looked at as trivial things, like for example having ISRO merchandise be available for a lot of people, right? Putting a t-shirt on which says Gaganyaan mission, that might be looking like a silly thing to do, but that is actually what creates that brand value, to actually feel proud about the fact that okay, we also have a really powerful space agency within the country. So I think starting off from that, ISRO's roadmap in terms of the research focused missions, right? can India put a human in orbit? Can we go to, I mean, we've already gone to Mars, at least to the orbit. Can we actually land on Mars? Can we actually land again on the moon? Can we go to Venus? There is this Aditya mission about the L1 point. All of these things, I think, is what is going to make all of the youngsters in the country who are fascinated by the space technology part of it just look up to what ISRO is doing. And that is a research angle, I would say, right? And then if you look at the other pillar, we are talking about all of the healthy encouragement that the government is giving for startups, right? So one thing I would like to highlight is the support that we ourselves have been privileged to get from ISRO, right? We became the first company in the country to sign an agreement under the newly, announced InSpace initiative. And that was such a huge boost for, even beyond the clear benefit that we will get, from saying, okay, we'll get ISRO advice, we'll get guidance from the people who have already built rockets. It was such a sort of encouragement for the team. Because usually hardware doesn't quickly work, and I think if I'm not mistaken, Guruprasad sir also said it right. It's not for the weak-hearted, right? So there is always this longing for excitement. At least if it comes from an external validation, like saying the country is here to support you. A lot of people who are really working hard to get new technology to work, actually feel very good. And I don't think it's a complete coincidence to say that, we signed with InSpace in December 2020. That is when the announcement became official. And I just want to show you one picture here of this, right? This is Agnikul's first successful engine firing, video. There's a clipping from that of the 100% 3D printed rocket engine, fully designed by the team and also realized within the company. Right. And I think all of these small, signs of encouragement that the government is already giving is a clear part of the roadmap. And I think a lot more startups are accomplishing a lot of other things. I've heard a lot of good things about other startups from India as well. And I think the government coming out and saying, we are there for you. If you go and do a really good job, we are also going to be supporting you to go even further. I think it's going to be an important part of, taking that roadmap to the next level, particularly in terms of implementation. It's one thing to plan, but it's another thing to actually go and implement it. I think this part, the government directly supporting private initiatives, is a really good thing that has also worked in our favor, right? And then I think the last part of the story, so when I spoke about ISRO, getting the excitement going, getting those R&D missions out there so that we, as people who are just passionate about technology can look up at space and dream. It's the second part is about encouraging startups, new initiatives, so that people continue to stay back in India and actually contribute to India, and also are feeling like going the next mile when things are not working that well for them, right? And I think the last part, which is also starting with this, which is also really starting to, change, is this whole aspect of how the rest of the industry, the support system that we have in the country is helping, these smaller players as well, and how the money is also starting to flow, right? We have been very lucky to have, had the opportunity to raise money from even very successful angels within our own country. Like we have raised money from Mr. Anand Mahindra's personal, his own family office. And I think that kind of encouragement from accomplished people in the ecosystem, I think that is also going to be needed, because in the end, finally, for a private player to succeed, there has to be money coming in. There has to be a successful business model around which we can continue to grow. And I think that is also starting to happen. The number of people who have taken Agnikul seriously has, become 10x after the InSpace announcement. This could be vendors, like say large players, because initially we are going out and asking for say 2 orders or 3 orders of something, right? That's very small in terms of the minimum order quantity, which doesn't make financial sense usually for large players to immediately come in. And they've been skeptical about, okay, will a company like this even be allowed in the country and all that? All of those doubts, every single aspect of those things were completely squashed once this announcement came out. So the support from the vendor system, the support from the customer system, people who want to launch small satellites, and they are now actually more interested in talking to companies like Agnikul, mainly because they know that finally the government, we are aligned with the government's vision here in terms of getting, private players out there. That, and then the last part is the investor community, right? Going from a country where we had mostly money going into software companies or into, software as a service startups, now into companies like us and, other companies. I think our other competitors, Skyroot has also raised money. I think Pixel has raised money. Bellatrix has raised money. All of the other newer startups, I'm also seeing them, get that financial power required to go to the next step. And I think that is indirectly also shaping the roadmap, right? Because again, implementation needs a plan and then excitement to keep implementing the plan and money to actually keep going with the plan and keep accomplishing those milestones. So that, I think, is the roadmap that is already being put in, place by the government itself, along with ISRO support, along with all of these really interesting people in the community who are coming together to contribute to the country's vision. So I think to use that phrase, right? I think the ball is already rolling. Things are in motion. We just need to go ahead and execute this step by step, and I can see a very bright future for what the country will be as a space power.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Srinath. It was such a great explanation of what the roadmap is. Actually, it all boils down to the passion. It all boils down to the excitement, and it all boils down to obviously the support. And most importantly, the financial support. So I'm sure the roadmap is in place, and we will find a way to have it going, and we will see you overtake Elon Musk soon. The kind of reforms which have been opened out for the industry, the Pradhan Mantri ji has made a mention that these reforms are based on 4 pillars. Dr. Guruprasad, can I get back to you and ask you to tell our viewers that what these 4 pillars are and what exactly are they meant for, the 4 pillars of reforms?
Yes, General Sir. Okay. First, before I talk about that, it was very overwhelming to see the smiling face of Srinath, brimming with confidence, in fact. See, that is the one which serves as a preamble to my next talk in the sense, and my next short talk session, in fact. So government has already put in place certain things.
Absolutely.
Are enabling it. Okay. He said whatever would have happened in 15 years is happening very quickly, in fact. That's the thing. He said there is total respect for India and Indian space program outside when he was there. I still remember 2 years back, I was in Greece. Okay. I was in a place called Thessaloniki. Okay. That is from where Alexander the Great is supposed to have come, from Macedonia. There, many Greeks came to the exhibition in which ISRO was participating. And you know what they were telling? They were telling, please give us your brains. They are telling me, in fact, many of them. Greece is supposed to be the cradle of Western civilization, Western thought, whether it is for science or philosophy or social sciences, humanities, whatever you think, in fact, that is the cradle. What I mean to say is not that they don't have it. They have the respect for India, in fact. That is, I was really overwhelmed. I'm not at all exaggerating. This is what I have seen. They were as electrified by our Prime Minister's speech at that time as we were. I was playing it continuously. So let me come back to this. As Srinath confidently said, the government has done everything, in fact. So the 4 pillars, the Prime Minister very emphatically he spoke about it. First one is provide, freedom for innovation. Okay, freedom for innovation for the private sector, in the sense. So let them innovate. So conditions have already been created. Yes, when you have the confidence, of governmental support, obviously you will have freedom to innovate. So that is the first pillar. Second thing is, yes, logically linked to that. The government is playing the role of an enabler. He said, use the word bhumika, the role of the government is enabler. That is very, very important. Srinath also mentioned just now how important the role of government is. Okay, all private individuals, all stakeholders, they will all do, but government is the most important stakeholder because it is the enabler as well as the regulator and the protector. We have to understand that. So this is the second pillar. Third pillar is prepare the youth for the future. That is what the Prime Minister said. Yes, all these actions, no doubt about it, they have been done with in earnest. For example, once upon a time, supply driven demand was there once upon a time. NSIL, New Space India Limited, which was created by Government of India in 2019 or so, has been instructed. It is demand driven now, in fact. So involve the industry for PSLV production and such things. Then in space, Srinath also mentioned, in space has been, yes, that's a game changer. Prime Minister himself said, you have changed the mindset. That is very important. Changing mindset is not easy. People may not do anything, but changing one's mindset itself is there, that requires a lot of courage. So that Prime Minister has done. Modi ji has done that. So that is the thing. And fourth thing is, okay, preparing the youth, no doubt about it, through all these actions. Fourth one is using the sector of space, okay, for enabling the further progress of the individual. Already Indian space program has done a lot for the common man, no doubt about it. All of us are enjoying the benefits of it. With the involvement of the private sector, with the involvement of the youth, who are involved in startups, definitely India will enhance its stake in the global space economy. Okay, I'm confident of it. And actually, the thing is, the most valued support for these words of mine came from Srinath earlier. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Guruprasad ji. It was wonderful getting to know the Honorable Prime Minister's mind and the 4 pillars of reforms, the government enabler, and conducive environment for innovation for the private sector, preparing youngsters for the future. Now, preparing youngsters for the future, and also one of the expectations from the Indian Space Association ISPA is that you interact with the academia, with the students, with the research and development teams, and with the colleges, the institutes, the technological institutes, and creating a young HR pool, human resource pool, which will become a great asset when it comes to India's leap into the great space. What and how the ISPA is planning to target the third reform pillar, the preparing the young generation, the youngsters, startups, MSMEs, and the like, and for this purpose. Anil.
Firstly, I'll talk of the startups. What do we aspire for them? If I would say the roadmap is that our startups become unicorns, and one day, of course, take on entirely maybe what ISRO is doing in the manufacturing sector. What we as an organization look at, an association look at, is to provide a platform for mutual collaboration between all the players, all the stakeholders who are there in the space industry, even between the startups which are there and which are working in various domains of space. Then assist, ensure they have friendly policies which can help startups to work in our environment, which was till now government controlled, to be opened for private space. Every policy advocacy we are doing with the Department of Space, with the government, is with the aim that these policies are more friendly, more transparent, and help our startup community. Then is a very important part is financial support. How can it be organized from private investors and from the government? This is one thing we aspire to look for them. And most importantly, look for assured markets. Markets in applications where, yes, the startups have to work, but we also want to work and help in this enterprise. And to summarize, I would say that the scientific legacy of our ISRO, which is 50 to 60 years old, the enterprise of our industry, and the scientific talent and energy of our youth, which is manifesting in our startups, with the focused support of the government as enablers, looks at a beautiful future for our space. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Bhatt. It was indeed revealing as to how we are targeting the youth, how we are targeting the startups, how we are going to be interacting with them. And I think the ISPA is already doing an enormous job. Well, gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our session. Now, what we've got a few questions to ask. So I will. First question is to you, General Bhatt. Anil Kapoor asks, and it's a slightly longish one. I will read it out to you. The Indian Integrated Guided Missile Development Program has been a great spin-off from the ISRO. With huge value addition to the Indian Armed Forces and the defense forces, embarking on a defense space agency. The satellite program would need to address LEO, MEO, GEO defense satellites, techniques for surveillance of space debris clutter clearances, ASAT, that is the weapon systems, as a deterrent or to dissuade a capability, etc. Do you think that there is a need to launch an Indian integrated defense space program for dual use, that is communication, defensive and offensive use of space?
Anuj, I'll start with saying is all what is available in the space domain is dual use. Be it space communication, be it recce and surveillance, which is close to remote sensing as we call it, be it navigation, which we call PNT, that is position, navigation and timing. All of this has usage in the civil industry and in the government and in the military. And whatever is being done by ISRO or whatever would be done by private industry can be used by defense. As to some specific programs you are saying, for years together, there has been a policy which very rightly ISRO has followed, that they have kept themselves away from defense. And that was in the environment where there were sanctions. And one of the reasons why ISRO is so Atmanirbhar is that after the nuclear explosions, the nuclear blast, when restrictions were put on India, our scientists, along with our industry in India, were able to carry on with our space programs, our space dreams. So here is a sensitivity. Should we today take an integrated defense space program? There is a need, yes. And maybe this will have to be done like the IGMT, the Indian Guided Missile Program, taken on by DRDO with strong support from ISRO and even the private industry.
Thank you, General Anil. It was a great answer, and I also agree with you that there is a need for an integrated defense space program, and all the stakeholders to get working in unison in a perfect synergy. Next question is to you, Dr. Guruprasad sir. The question is that it has been a conviction that whatever can be defined can be devised, designed, and developed in an era of disrupted technologies. Launch of a satellite is a cost prohibitive exercise. Do you think there is a need to design and develop a technology stack for repair / reimbursement of satellites of their flight and retrieve them and redeploy them?
Yeah, it's a very exciting question. Whatever is, let us say, a possibility today, tomorrow, whatever is a possibility today is a reality tomorrow. In fact, that is what has happened in the domain of space. It's a very pertinent question indeed. Space launches are prohibitive in the sense, yes, they are very costly. But look at Elon Musk. He has brought down the cost of access to space significantly. In India also, we are developing two types of technologies. ISRO has already publicized those things. One is called reusable launch vehicle technology demonstrator. That is the first step towards realizing a reusable launch vehicle. That is the thing. Second thing is scramjet technology demonstrator, supersonic combustion ramjet technology demonstrator. Both of them were tested in 2015. 2016, I think. So actually cost of access to space is coming down. Now, yes, why don't we have satellite refueling, satellite refurbishment? Yes, it has happened already. In the case of Hubble Space Telescope, it was repaired once and upgraded many times. That is why it is working for 30 years. Okay. But whatever is technologically possible may be economically prohibitive in space. It may not be technologically feasible. And second thing is the person who has asked the question has to remember one thing. Technology will change within a few years. A satellite built with today's technology, after 10 years, it will become, the technology itself would have become obsolete. More efficient technology would have come up later. So refueling a satellite, refurbishing it again and again, it may not be that good, I feel, in fact. But there is a field. Many of Anuj sir and Anil sir, you might be knowing, there is a domain, subdomain in space called rendezvous and proximity operations in our
Yes.
Yes. There is an American company called Northrop Grumman, okay, which has perfected a satellite capable of refueling and this kind of thing. And this technology has already been demonstrated. But as far as the wide adaptation of this technology is concerned, I have my own doubts. But it is very, all I can say at this time is difficult to predict. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guruprasad sir. Difficult to predict. I agree absolutely with you. It's difficult to predict, but there is surely a need to find a way to get the costs going down. The next question is, Srinath, obviously it's to you. M. Bhattacharya asks, by when the space tourism will become a reality? It's fiction now. When will it become a reality? Your take, because we are looking at you for it to become a reality.
As I said, I think we are looking at this decade. I think before 2030, it will definitely become a reality. I would have, if before in space, I would have said maybe 2040, but now I'm going to say before 2030. And just to be clear, my definition of reality is, say all of us on this call should be able to afford going to space. That is my definition of reality.
Very, very nice. Very, very nice. I mean, I wish that happens, and let us meet up somewhere there. Thank you very much, Srinath. Next question is by Vijay Kumar Dhawan. And the question is to you, Dr. Sreekumar sir. And he says that you've given an exciting thing about IIST. How many are taken into ISRO? And are there some toppers or top rankers of those institutes which have been hired away by NASA or any other foreign agencies, foreign space agencies?
Yeah, we in the beginning of the program, there was much greater opportunities for graduates to enter the ISRO system in greater numbers. And as systems evolve, we are now looking at trying to really bring it on the case of need basis in terms of where do we fit such youngsters with great motivation to pursue things, etc. into what programs you can put in access. So right now, the opportunities are a little limited. We still the most promising students who perform very well are certainly given an opportunity to do that. The second part of the question is with regard to our opportunities elsewhere, and it turns out that some of the toppers of the BTech programs have direct opportunities to actually pursue even higher studies in Caltech and places like that. They have gone on to do superbly well. I mean, this is really a clear indication of the quality of the students that are coming out. So the opportunities are very good, and in this expanding frontier of space, I can only imagine there will be no shortage of opportunities for those who come out from this, who perform well and who come out of this institution with good grades. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sreekumar. Indians are doing well, great minds, great thinkers, great thought, and a great institute. All put together, we can see the result. Karamchand Mishra asks, can you throw some light on the status of US Star Wars, SDI programs, and the Indians' own position in this aspect? Anil, Bhatt, can I get on to you for an answer for this question?
Now, well, I would start with that Star Wars is a little distant. But what I would say is, yes, space has now become, along with cyber, a very, very critical dimension for winning any future war. Apart from air, land, and sea, space and cyber is which any future armed forces of the world will look to get success in the environment which is existing. There are two, in fact, a little more, but two nations who have declared space, created space forces. One is led by, of course, USA, who have a strategic space command, a space force which is separate from all the other three forces. Similarly, France has also created a similar structure, while China has a structure combined both for their cyber and space. In India, we have made a beginning by having the Defense Space Agency, which would be looking into all dimensions of space. And in the future, this Defense Space Agency will become the Defense Space Command. So yes, Star Wars is slightly distant, but yes, the role of security forces to use space, as they call, for all the dimensions which I have mentioned and even more, is necessary. And the first step was taken by the government 2 to 3 years back when the Defense Space Agency was formed. And in the future, I'm very sure it will become a space command.
Thank you very much, Janil Bhatt. It was a great answer. But there's another question related to you. Nidhi Bahuguna asks, and it's specifically to you, so I am not giving this question to you. She has asked it for you, from you, and it says, will space be the new military frontier? It's been covered to an extent in your previous answer, but kindly, will space be the new military frontier?
Yeah, as I would say that as more and more applications, even civilian applications, go to space, be it our day-to-day communication, our broadband, our IoTs, which will be helped by space, even in peace, to safeguard all our assets, our space assets, we will have to look at this space frontier. Yes, to go into the domain of Star Wars, it is very expensive, and most of the nations are treading carefully into this. Even weaponization of the space is not being done. Countries are developing kinetic and non-kinetic weapons, but the cost of taking this war from air, land, sea to space would be very expensive for everyone in the world. But yes, preparations for this in the future, or to have this in our radar, it is very essential.
Exactly. And we did some experiments with some activity in this space last year. I think we all know about it. There are a few more questions. We'll quickly go over them, and we are actually running out of time. Srinath, this question is for you. And Ashok Verma is saying, hi, Srinath, great to see you again. A simple question. How much of Indian space technology be innovation versus adoption of existing technology? Srinath.
Great question, actually. And I think it should be a healthy balance of both, mainly because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. ISRO has already done so much, right? It would be not the best decision to again start creating from scratch for the sake of it. However, at the same time, I think a lot of new manufacturing technologies have come up. A lot of new avionics things have actually, today are available. And I think it is important to innovate on those areas, and trying out smaller things as startups particularly is easier for us or for any other MSME as well, right? If you're looking at a really large satellite or an extremely large launch vehicle, it might be harder to experiment there and try innovation there. But that is where I think startups actually can play a good role in saying, okay, our entire bill of materials, our entire product is small. So there is a little more incentive to try to experiment on new things, but being firmly grounded and footed and standing on what ISRO has already developed. And I think that is what is going to actually be the most optimal way to become a successful nation in space. So that's my view on it.
Absolutely perfect. A nice balance, and that's a very balanced answer. I must tell you that. Another one for you, Srinath. Is the humanoid in space being developed in India, and is this going to be available for other sectors?
Oh, wow. It is, of course, developed in India.
Dishant is asking this question.
Okay. No, I definitely think it's developed in India. Whether it will be useful, whether it will be available for other sectors, I think ISRO would be the right person, right group to comment on it. But for me, the reason I brought that up was because it's just these small things that are, the ones that actually create a lot of excitement, right? Because otherwise it becomes like yet another large project that has to be done. But when you're suddenly looking at a robot that's going to be in space and that's been made in India, that's a very different thing. Sure, I think what ISRO has done very well, like for example, on the battery technology, right? What was developed in ISRO is now being made available to other sectors as well. And I think the same thing can happen in this one, humanoid as well. So yes is my thinking, but I think ISRO will be the formal group to come.
We have some stalwarts from ISRO here, and but yes is the thing, yes is the wish, and yes is the thing, and yes is the answer to the question. Another one from M. Bhattacharya. India's efforts on initiatives on space debris management. Guruprasad sir, I'll get to you for this question, and a very brief answer. We are actually running out of time. Why developing countries should be answerable in future for unchecked space activities of past developed by the developed countries? It's a standard question which, in all walks it goes on, You're muted, sir.
Sorry. There are arguments like this. It's not easy to come to a consensus on these kind of things. The countries which actually first developed these technologies due to their own compulsions, in fact, you people talked about some defense aspects earlier, just a few minutes back, like that they had a compulsion. So they started their space program, and that is how things have been going on. And, the thing is, what has already been done, it is a thing of the past. So the thing is, why for somebody else's action somebody else should suffer, means this is not the only domain in which it is happening like this. But anyway, there is a place where things can be debated peacefully, and a consensus can be arrived at. United Nations is there, different committees of United Nations are there, committees of United Nations are there. So it is a good forum for debating and coming to a consensus. At this stage, I would say only this much. Thank you.
I think that's a great way to put it across. And one more question we'll take, we'll squeeze it in. And the question is to Srinath, and then I'll come to Sreekumar sir with a very small question. The question is: it seems the key metric for space launch technology is price per kg to be sent in space, and the other is time to delivering the launch vehicle. Is it true?
Yeah, both are equally important, and both are right. Yes.
Absolutely correct. Srinath, Sreekumar sir, I'll come to you. There's a very interesting question which has come. ISRO stands for Indian Space Research Organization. Should there be an ISMO, Indian Space Manufacturing Organization? I think can it be a part of some of the reforms? So.
Yeah, of course, certainly the discussion on reforms that we're discussing certainly has a large focus on manufacturing outside the ISRO system. ISRO would continue to have a prominent role in the R&D, and that R&D focus can be much greater if there is a partner who will also look at the manufacturing and the application elements of it. So clearly, that is necessary, and that is indeed what General Bhatt and others have spoken about, and we hope to see that in the future.
Absolutely right, sir. I think the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister's vision also is actually all about that. Mahesh Yadav has a question. With private players entering the space domain, how do we foresee hybrid warfare and terrorism making its presence in this arena? Anil Bhatt, I will get to you with this question because you've handled the terrorism in all possible ways, in all possible ranks in the armed forces. Now, can I get to you for this question?
Now, one is, I have to take this question, answer it in two parts. One is its usage to handle terrorism or hybrid warfare. Yes, this being a means of us being able to get recce and surveillance and close recce and surveillance, definitely in the future, security forces world over can use it for counterterrorism. Communication is being used, part of it, but recce and surveillance would also be used in the future. And if you see many of these latest movies, they do show some part of it, how it is being used along with the UAVs. The challenge in hybrid warfare with space coming in, it's definitely there, because all the space applications are engines for the growth of a nation's economy. And if an adversarial force thinks of attacking it, because whatever we have in space by most of the nations, it is not hardened against non-kinetic weapons or even kinetic weapons. And this is a major challenge that state actors or non-state actors, if they get into it, there will be a challenge. It will be another threat, another dimension in the hybrid war. I would say as briefly as that and not expand more on it.
Absolutely correct. And I think you put it up in an absolutely proper manner. Vijay SP says to motivate Indian industry to invest in space infrastructure and R&D activities, throw some light on domestic market for satellites and applications areas, including defense demands. Sreekumar sir, can you handle this question, sir?
Well, I may not be the right person to handle this because he's looking at emerging markets. Clearly, as we discussed the other day, I mean, the applications, as Dr. Guruprasad also mentioned, is numerous. It's really only limited by our thinking, and it is going to be rapidly evolving in the next many years. And the private players' role in that is very critical. So with the government's desire to really have this larger platform for many to play, I think it's is really limitless with regard to the kind of things we will really see. So it's a really bright future looking ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sreekumar. So there are many more questions, but I want to tell our viewers that we're soon going to have another session with the same experts on this, another live session, and we'll be able to handle most of other things in that session. I would like to sum up the session by saying India has produced pioneering space reforms. These reforms will provide opportunities for both the industry as well as the academia. That is what is the aim of all these reforms all about. Reforms that enable and promote private enterprises to carry out independent space initiatives. Reforms that facilitate tracking, testing, telemetry, or for that matter, any other asset of the ISRO to be used by the private party. Reforms that aim and that create an independent agency in space for monitoring and regulating, reforms that catalyzed demand-driven development of space programs, reforms that provide stable regulatory and policy environment. Very important, gentlemen, stable regulatory and policy environment is very, very important. Reforms that inspire and promote vibrant ecosystem for startups, for youngsters, for MSMEs, for students, for the people involved in R&D. That's exactly what ISPA are doing. And reforms that envision the creation of an industry, advisory, and advocacy group. These reforms have been historical. The unleashing of these reforms has been a milestone decision of the Prime Minister last year. Only one thing I would like to say in the end, that we have embarked on a great journey. We have a great future for India's space and technology. India has emerged as an eminent power in this sector of space technology domain. But as your agency, ISPA, has to please make sure that our initiatives do not get delayed unduly because of bureaucratic hassles at the decision-making process. I'm sure your agency, the ISPA, is possibly looking at that. Thank you very much, all the great people around here. I am absolutely sure that with this kind of vision displayed by the Honorable Prime Minister and is being pursued by all the agencies, within that day is not very far when you will have one Srinath staring into the eyes of anyone and be competing with him. एक बंदा, एक बच्चा हमारे यहाँ का, हमारी गुदड़ी में से ऐसा लाल निकलेगा जो जाकर के इलॉन मस्क के आंखों में उसके समकक्ष उसके सामने खड़े होकर के उसको चुनौती देगा। हमारे देश से ऐसा अग्निकुल निकलेगा जो कि स्पेसएक्स को पछाड़ के उससे आगे जाएगा। वो अग्निकुल ऐसे अग्निबाण अंतरिक्ष में भेजेगा जो भूमंडल से ब्रह्मांड तक भारत का स्पेस परचम फैलाएगा। With that positive note, ladies and gentlemen, we end today's great session. Thank you very much, all of you all, and thank you viewers for having joined in such large numbers and having actively participated in the act. I will be back again on the last Sunday of February, that's I think 27th, with another important topic, and we will go live on that. I, on behalf of Metamorphs, thank all the participants and all the viewers. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Jai.